Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is our weekly recap. It's the highlight from each day of the week. Hope you enjoy it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Crime Talk, and my name is Scott Reisch. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, we'd ask that you please hit that subscribe button and then also hit that little bell so that you receive notification of when we go live or put up new content. Don't forget, tomorrow night is Tuesday. We'll be live 6 p.m. Mountain Time, both here on YouTube as well as Facebook. All right, we have a short docket today. First, is Leticia Stauch going to get to represent herself? Possibly, and it's kind of looking that way. So there was a hearing held Friday afternoon, February 19th, 2021. And the hearing was held via WebEx, and it was sent to a break-off session. The only parties that were there were Leticia Stauch, not the judge who's hearing her case right now, but a separate judge to determine if there is a conflict between Leticia Stauch and her attorneys. And when I mean a conflict, is there an ethical conflict which would require the Office of the Public Defender to withdraw and have private counsel appointed through the Office of the Alternate Defense Counsel, which is basically usually very highly skilled, approved private attorneys that represent defendants when there's a conflict with the Public Defender's Office. Well, we know that hearing lasted some 30 minutes, and the court that heard the request of Leticia Stauch for new counsel was denied. The hearing before Judge Bain denied the request. He said that he was not going to find a conflict. Now, just because you don't like your court-appointed attorneys doesn't mean that you get a new one. There actually has to be a conflict. Did they represent a witness that may appear in this particular case? Probably not the case here. And I've talked about this before. When you start asking for competency evaluations, you better be pretty certain that someone is not competent, because there is nothing that will drive a bigger wedge through the attorney-client relationship than the attorney saying somebody's not competent to proceed and the defendant saying, I'm fine. Why are you doing this to me? You think I'm crazy. That is my hunch as it relates to what took place. So what happens now? Well, the case now goes back to the original judge hearing this case, and that hearing is set for February 24th at 3 p.m. That matter is set for an Arguello hearing. And an Arguello hearing is based upon a case here in the state of Colorado that states that the defendant has a right to represent themselves at the trial level. But before doing so, the court has to give this Arguello advisement. And basically, it's to state that the right or the desire to proceed pro se, and for those of you who do not know, pro se is a Latin term that means in one's own behalf. So that the person wants to represent themselves, they refer to as a pro se defendant. The court in this Arguello advisement is going to basically try and talk the defendant out of making this decision. The court will state, do you understand that the area of law is a highly complex area and that you now have competent counsel that has received training in the area of law, not only in law school, but the mere fact that they have done criminal law for a very long time. The court will explain to them that as a pro se defendant, the court cannot help them out in any way. The court will explain to them as a pro se defendant that you are held to the same standards as a practicing attorney, which means you have to be familiar with the rules of evidence. You have to be familiar with the rules of criminal procedure, trial tactics, defenses, and basic general criminal law. The court will also go on to say that this is a very, very poor choice, because one who represents themselves can then no longer complain about the quality of the representation if they are in fact convicted. Now, what does this really mean? If Leticia Stauch wants to represent herself, she basically has the right to do so. The United States Supreme Court has all but said that at the trial level, you have the right to do that. There's been several United States Supreme Court cases, specifically Ferretta v. California. There, the United States Supreme Court held that the Sixth Amendment also guarantees the defendant in a criminal trial a constitutional right to proceed without counsel when he or she voluntarily and intelligently elects to do so. The Supreme Court in Ferretta made several conclusions regarding the history of being able to represent yourself, but they also said that in that case, Ferretta concluded that even though, as an objective matter, most defendants would receive a better defense if they accepted a lawyer's representation, a knowing and intelligent waiver must be honored out of the respect for the individual, which is the lifeblood of the law. It is this humble attorney's opinion that Miss Leticia Stauch is making a huge, huge mistake. She is obviously charged with counts relating to the death of her 11-year-old stepson, Gannon Stauch. These crimes carry the possibility of life without parole. She technically falls under the old law where the death penalty could be sought. Very unlikely that that would take place in this particular case, but it is still a possibility. It is just a poor, poor decision. The question then becomes, if Ms. Stauch decides to represent herself, can she change her mind? Possibly, and more than likely, yes. Why would the court give her attorneys back if she were to request them? Because let's face it, most people believe that a defendant charged in a homicide case will receive better representation by any attorney just about than representing themselves. And most judges won't tell you this publicly, but one of the things that judges hate the most is dealing with pro se defendants. Pro se defendants create havoc. They create delay. They turn a simple hearing that should take no less than 5 minutes literally into hour-long adventure when it doesn't need to be, because they don't understand the law. Why would somebody want to represent themselves not knowing what the hell they were doing? And if you could say, oh, I've been to the law library, I've read up on a couple of things, that, in my humble opinion, is not enough to effectively represent yourself. If Leticia Stauch represents herself, starting with the preliminary hearing, which is currently set for March 11th of this year, let the circus begin. We thought the only other circus was going to be in Idaho. Apparently, it's going to be right here in my own backyard in El Paso County in Colorado Springs, Colorado. One other option is that the court could appoint Leticia Stauch advisory counsel. Advisory counsel would be appointed at the court's expense to be available for Ms. Stauch to assist her in figuring out legal questions. It doesn't mean that the attorney is a gopher or a runner for Ms. Stauch. It doesn't mean that that attorney would be her research assistant. Their job is simply to answer questions under basically, what rule of evidence should I try to admit this piece of evidence in? The judge could also be asked by Ms. Stauch to appoint at court expense a private investigator to conduct an investigation for the defense in this particular case. Certainly, that's where a lot of this case is going to fundamentally come down to. I'm not sure Ms. Stauch would even know what experts she would even possibly need to retain, how she intends to do that. And guess what? All of her requests, if she does proceed pro se, have to go to the court. And then the court will more than likely, or Ms. Stauch probably wouldn't know, that she shouldn't send it directly to the court, that it should be sealed, the request. And the significance of that is that the prosecution will then know what she is asking for in way of experts. Miss Leticia Stauch or family, she's making a huge, huge mistake. Hopefully, someone will put some common sense into Miss Stauch, because right now she apparently thinks she is smarter and craftier than everyone in the room. But I don't see that turning out well for her if she decides to proceed pro se. Now to the docket. First, El Chapo. That's right. He is currently a resident here in the great state of Colorado, down at the Florence ADX Supermax facility, where he has not escaped yet. Well, his wife, she may have had different plans if she could make it happen, but Emma Coronel Aspuro, she's 31 years old. She is a dual Mexican and U.S. citizen, and she has now been arrested when she got off a plane in D.C. yesterday. For those of you who do not know, her husband, El Chapo Guzman, was the leader of Mexico's Sinaloa narcotics cartel, and he's now serving a life sentence. Well, he had a pretty good run of it, and he was actually arrested in Mexico and escaped, and then he was arrested again and brought to the United States in 2017, where he was charged with all of the drug conspiracy that he was found guilty of participating in and promptly received a life sentence. It is alleged that Miss Coronel Aspuro assisted Mr. Guzman while he was in custody in helping to basically run his drug cartel while he was in custody, and also helped plan his escape back in 2015. This was more than just the doting wife who was visiting him in jail to keep that chin up kind of thing. No, she was actively participating in directing people to take action in the drug organization, as well as digging that tunnel. She will appear in court for a bond detention hearing today, and if I was a betting man, she is going to be detained pending trial. Most drug felonies, there is a presumption that the defendant is a danger to the community and a flight risk. Given the fact that Mr. Guzman was one of the wealthiest men in the world, even though you can't necessarily say where all his money was, it's estimated that he was worth billions and billions of dollars. That would provide resources for her to flee the jurisdiction and never to return. Fortunately for Miss Coronel Aspuro, her husband's attorney is available. Attorney Jeffrey Lichman states that he will be representing the Mrs. El Chapo. We'll see what kind of luck he has getting her out and whether he has better luck at trial than he did on the first case. Now, obviously, in the first case of Mr. Guzman, there were insiders explaining how he was involved in the drug trafficking organization that was basically worldwide. He probably didn't stand a chance at trial of being found not guilty, but there was no offer, and that's when you go to trial and you try to create appellate records so that hopefully there's something that can be reversed, at least for the defendant's sake. And then obviously the prosecution wants a nice, clean trial so nothing can be reversed on appeal. First, Ghislaine Maxwell. If at first you do not get a bond, try again. We all know Ghislaine Maxwell has tried repeatedly to try and be released on bond, and repeatedly Judge Allison Nathan has said that Ghislaine Maxwell is a flight risk and a danger to the community. I'm not sure how much simpler the court can explain to Miss Maxwell that she's going to remain in custody pending a trial. Well, Miss Maxwell and her attorneys are not discouraged. They have tried again. They're trying to satisfy issues that the court raised that was concerned about Miss Maxwell leaving the jurisdiction. Specifically, the fact that she holds both French and United Kingdom citizenship, and therefore she would not be able to be extradited back to the United States if she fled. But don't worry. Miss Maxwell says, Judge, if you let me out, I will renounce my citizenship, and if I did leave the country, you would still be able to extradite me back to the United States. Ms. Maxwell also wants the court to know that living in the United States for the last 30 years, she has strong family ties and support of friends and family that reside in this country, and she's not going anywhere. Trust her. I think that's what she told the alleged victims in this particular case as well. Trust me. I don't think that the judge is going to trust her. We've talked about this before. When you ask for a bond reduction, you have to present some new information. But here, it's simply trying to respond to the court's concerns. I don't think the court's going to take that as a new development in this case. It's not like charges are being reduced. Simply saying, hey, if you have a concern about my citizenship, I'll renounce that citizenship. I don't think that's what the judge's overall tenor of the previous orders denying release. We appreciate Ms. Maxwell's drive and determination. I'm sure she is absolutely annoying the hell out of her attorneys trying to get out of custody when she should be sitting there focusing upon reviewing discovery. Or maybe that's why she wants to get out of custody so quickly, is because she's reviewed the discovery and she may be coming to the realization that this is not good and that she may be spending the rest of her life in the United States, but in a federal detention center. All right, first on the docket, things go from bad to terrible for the South Dakota Attorney General, Jason Ravsborg. As you may recall, the good Attorney General had a little incident several months ago where he thought maybe he hit a deer. Oh, it turned out it happened to be a guy. That's right. Well, the video of the Attorney General's interview has been released. And I'm sure whomever is going to represent the Attorney General in this case is dying 1,000 deaths. You would think that the lead prosecutor would know not to say a word, but he couldn't help himself. It's always better to look guilty than to be found guilty. And in this particular situation, the investigators used some great interrogation techniques against the Attorney General. What did they do? Oh, the silence was deafening. They would just be as though they're writing down notes, and the Attorney General would just volunteer more and more information. But then, when it came to the critical issue, we found these glasses that just happened to belong to the dead guy in your car. Do you know who those might be? Well, those could be, I'm in the military, the reserve, so maybe they're for training stuff or something like that. Well, they get the video, they get a picture from the officers out at the car. The investigators ask the Attorney General, how would you not realize that dead guy who obviously came through your windshield, whereupon his glasses were deposited in your car, and you not realize that you hit a human being and not a deer? No good answer, but we're going to put that entire video up so that you can watch. Now, the Attorney General has some issues. Obviously, he's been charged in a misdemeanor case. There's no pursuing felony charges, although, if there was something along the lines of attempting to influence a public official, boy, gonna be close. But maybe the mere fact that he's the Attorney General, they're cutting him a little bit of slack. I'm usually of the opinion that if you're a public official, you should be held to a higher standard. And now the legislature has introduced articles of impeachment to have the Attorney General removed from office. It's not anything official yet, but it's been turned over to the Legislative Council. Maybe the Attorney General will resign. The video shows a very good point that I've always made in life. There are two types of people in the world, those that are humble and those that are about to be. Now, take a look at the Attorney General's, probably his campaign headshot. A little cocky, maybe a little confident, right? Take a look at his demeanor in that interrogation room. Even if you're the Attorney General, it can still be as intimidating as more than you could possibly imagine being in that interrogation room. That's why people need to say, you know what, I think I need to get my attorney in here, so the attorney can come in and say, we're stopping this right there. The Attorney General, we'll give him the presumption of innocence. He's entitled to that. Hell, he should know that. I wonder, as the Attorney General, he may have a little more sympathy now and then for somebody accused of a crime. He may realize sometimes accidents can happen and you can wind up having your entire life turned upside down. Leticia Stauch, attorney and counselor at law. There was supposed to be a hearing the other day, and for some reason, it was canceled. It was held today regarding whether Leticia Stauch is going to be able to represent herself as it relates to the charges of first-degree murder. In court, the court gave her an arguello advisement, which is simply an advisement based upon a case where the defendant's last name was Arguello. The arguello advisement lets Ms. Stauch know that it is not a good idea to represent yourself, that the area of criminal law is a highly specialized area of law with lots of intricacies and nuances that you may not be able to pick up, let alone on a first-degree homicide case. Ms. Leticia Stauch responded to the court's statement in Friday saying that having an attorney would have more experience than you would. She responded saying, I've come to find the word expert doesn't hold much value. I'm the expert here. I think that I could do it on my own, sir. It's my constitutional right. The court granted Ms. Leticia Stauch's request. She is now her own attorney. She will have advisory counsel appointed, and that advisory counsel will assist her in answering legal questions that she may have regarding procedure and various legal aspects. He or she is not necessarily required to be so up to speed on the case that he or she would be allowed to step in if Miss Leticia Stauch changes her mind at some point, even mid-trial, saying that she wants an attorney. I'm not sure that she really appreciates the amount of work in a case such as this, given the fact that she's never done it before, but we will see how things turn out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.